A Boeing 767 is gliding silently across the skies of Canada, but not because it's supposed to. Both engines have died. No power, no thrust. Just the sound of wind rushing past a 130-ton metal giant falling from 40,000 feet. Inside, 69 souls brace for impact, unaware that below them, a small town is hosting a family race day on an abandoned airfield. That same airfield is now their only chance of survival. But how did this happen? How does a state-of-the-art jet suddenly run out of fuel, mid-air, over one of the safest countries on Earth? In this video, we'll uncover the shocking story of Air Canada Flight 143, an accident that defied logic, rewrote aviation training forever, and proved that even a powerless aircraft can still make history. It's July 23, 1983. Air Canada Flight 143, a brand new Boeing 767, is preparing for takeoff from Montreal, bound for Edmonton with a stop in Ottawa. The aircraft gleams in the summer light. It's one of the most modern jets in the fleet, run by computers instead of old analog gauges. But behind that innovation lurks a hidden problem. Just weeks earlier, Air Canada had begun switching from the imperial system to the metric system, pounds to kilograms, gallons to liters. And on that morning, the ground crew faced a fuel quantity computer that wasn't working. They had to calculate the fuel manually, a simple conversion, but a single mistake in that math would mean disaster. Instead of loading 22,300 kilograms of fuel, they filled the tanks with 22,300 pounds, less than half of what the aircraft actually needed. Unaware of the critical error, Captain Bob Pearson and First Officer Maurice Quintal received their clearance. At 12:09 p.m., the engines roared to life, and the sleek Air Canada jet lifted off the runway, climbing confidently into the blue sky. What no one knew was that the clock had just started ticking, because this flight was never going to reach its destination. At first, everything seems perfect. The 767 climbs smoothly, engines humming with the deep, steady rhythm of a flawless flight. The passengers relax. Some read, others chat quietly, and the cabin crew begins service. No one aboard has any reason to believe that above the calm Canadian skies, something is terribly wrong. Captain Pearson and First Officer Quintal talk about the weather ahead. Clear skies all the way to Edmonton. Their instruments show normal readings, fuel gauges steady, nothing out of place. But the reality is, those fuel gauges were showing nothing at all. They had been manually disabled because of the faulty computer system, and neither pilot knew exactly how much fuel they really had. 20 minutes into the flight, everything still feels routine. The jet cruises effortlessly at 39,000 feet. Passengers sip coffee, unaware that below the wings, the last gallons of fuel are being consumed far faster than expected. Then, a small sign, barely noticeable. The first low-pressure fuel warning light flickers on for the left engine. Just a glitch, they think. Moments later, the same light flashes on the right side. Now, both pilots exchange a look. This shouldn't happen. Both engines showing fuel pressure warnings? They cross-check systems. The indicators seem normal. The flight continues. But as the aircraft passes over Red Lake, Ontario, a chime sounds again. Then, suddenly, silence. The left engine dies. The cockpit fills with the sound of alarms, warning tones echoing in rapid bursts. Pearson immediately takes control while Quintal tries to restart the engine. The plane begins to descend slightly, its massive frame trembling against the air. Still, there's hope. They can glide, restart, fix this. But before they can even attempt a restart, another sound cuts through the cockpit. A deep, hollow whine, followed by another deafening silence. The second engine has failed. Both pilots stare at each other. They're now flying a 130-ton glider with 69 lives aboard, And the nearest airport? Hundreds of kilometers away. The silence inside the cockpit is terrifying. Every light on the panel is flashing red, warning of systems that no longer exist. The engines are dead, both of them. And with that, so are the generators, the hydraulics, and the fuel pumps. The Boeing 767 is now a powerless metal glider slicing through thin air at 35,000 feet. Captain Pearson grips the yoke, fighting the heavy control forces. Without engines, the aircraft's hydraulics can't assist his movements. Every turn, every pitch adjustment requires raw strength. He's literally wrestling the airplane to keep it level. Meanwhile, First Officer Quintal frantically flips switches. The emergency checklist, the restart procedure, the auxiliary power system. Nothing. Every attempt fails. The engines refuse to come back to life. Then, something even more alarming. The cockpit goes dark. The main power is gone. Only one small device powered by wind, the RAT, the ram air turbine, unfolds beneath the aircraft, generating just enough energy to keep the most vital instruments alive. "Let's think," Pearson says, steady but focused. He begins calculating glide distance, how far they can travel without power. For every 1,000 feet of altitude, they can glide about 2 miles. At 35,000 feet, that's roughly 70 miles of range. It sounds like a lot, until you realize there's no airport within that distance. Quintal scans the chart. The nearest major airport is Winnipeg, and they're too far. They'll never make it. But then he remembers something. A small airfield, one he used years ago in the Air Force. Gimli, a former RCAF base. Maybe, just maybe, they can make it there. The only problem? It's been decommissioned for years. No control tower, no emergency services. No one expects a 767 to fall out of the sky. Still, Pearson makes the call. "We're going to Gimli." And as the powerless jet banks toward its only hope, the passengers inside still believe the pilots have it under control. They have no idea that they're gliding toward an airstrip that no longer exists. As Air Canada 143 descends toward Gimli, the pilots finally get a clear look at the runway, and their hearts drop. The old airbase isn't empty, it's crowded. Families, cyclists, and spectators are all over the pavement because the runway has been converted into a public racetrack. And today it's in full use. Pearson has only seconds to react. There's no time to abort, no power to climb, and no alternative below them except trees and metal barriers. The aircraft sinks, fast, too fast. Without engines, Pearson performs a side slip, a risky maneuver meant to kill speed, but one almost never attempted in a giant jetliner. The plane drifts sideways, the wings shaking violently as if they might snap. People on the ground look up, stunned, realizing a massive Boeing 767 is about to land right on top of them. The landing gear crashes down. One of the struts locks improperly. Sparks fly as the nose begins to drop. The plane skids, sliding uncontrollably toward a group of spectators. Pearson holds the controls tight, fighting to keep the jet straight as the aircraft screeches across the tarmac, leaving a trail of smoke, rubber, and sheer terror in its path. When the aircraft finally grinds to a stop, the cabin fills with stunned silence. Passengers look around in disbelief. Alive, shaken but alive. Outside, spectators run toward the plane, unsure whether they've just witnessed a miracle or a catastrophe. The nose sits collapsed on the runway, smoke drifting into the cold air. But the jet is intact. Against every odd, the crew has pulled off one of the most extraordinary landings in aviation history, later known worldwide as the Gimli glider.